All right, so how are you reaching out to these folks to get feedback?
So we're using the assessment tool.
Okay.
It's an anonymous tool. So let's say you said to me, I would love to go through this process. And the first place I'm typically starting with people is why we're working on the goals and VPs in coaching sessions.
Right.
We're letting the assessment tool run in the background.
Okay.
So the way it works is there's a website that you would go to, and I'd give you a user ID and a password. And you'd customize what you sort of want your intro part to look like. And then you load up all the email addresses of the people you want to get feedback from into the server. So let's say you wanted to send it to 50 people, friends, family, former colleagues, people you know from BNI, people you know from other groups. You put all the addresses in and you hit return.
Is that a good number, 50? I mean,
Well,
what is the range?
Well, you get about a 50% return. So if you send it
that's
to
what I was gonna
50,
ask.
you're going to get about 25.
Is that enough for
That's
data?
plenty.
Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely
Okay,
plenty.
great.
In terms of the assessment, we need 12 responses in order for the server to actually be able to crunch the data and give us a report.
Okay.
12 to me, though, as a brand strategist, is not
minimum.
enough.
Right.
I'd like to have 20 or 25. The more data we get, the better
Sure.
the information is, and the more I can kind of scrub it with the client, and it helps the client get clear.
Yes.
So you load up all those email addresses into the server, you hit return. Every one of those people will get an anonymous questionnaire, an email. They will answer it. They hit return, it goes back up to the server. You will never know who's saying what because it is an anonymous
And they're
tool.
clear on that?
Oh, there's absolutely no way you can tell.
Okay, but the people filling it out are clear that nobody's going to find out who said what?
Yes, we'll come back to that. So after everybody's responded to the tool, it goes up to the server, and once you hit, 12, 15, 17, or 20, you can end the feedback process. The server crunches all the data and prints out a report, which then a certified brand strategist would go through that with you and help you identify from the report what your strengths are, what your leadership competencies are, your skills, what are some areas that maybe you need to work on that are off-brand. And then we identify what are the rational brand attributes and the emotional brand attributes. Not everything is differentiating.
Okay,
in that report.
Ask a question about that? So are you getting like a list of adjectives or keywords or?
Brand persona, they're called.
Brand persona, okay.
So you get brand persona. And then you also get a list of your leadership competencies. So brand persona are rolled up in the report from the adjectives that people use.
Okay, can you give a couple of examples? What's some brand
So
personas
a brand
would be?
persona might be, I don't actually have the list in front of me, a rock. Somebody who's a rock is reliable and dependable.
Okay.
A motivator is someone who's really enthusiastic. One brand persona rolls up from 2 adjectives.
Okay.
The skills that are identified roll up into leadership competencies. Okay. So we go through all this data with the client, and then we separate it out because there are things that are listed in the report that are not differentiating. The key to personal branding is understanding what is unique and compelling and differentiated about you. So I know you really well. I know you're always very professional. You always follow up on everything you say you're going to do, and you're a very good communicator. So we might have a list of those. What we want to separate out are which of the things that you have that are the same that everyone else has, because that's not differentiating. And what are the things that you have that are unique and compelling and differentiated that are going to emotionally work with your target audience. So it all ties back to your target audience. Example, if you are a creative director in an advertising agency and everyone in the report says you're creative, is that differentiating? Not if you're a creative director, no. However, if you're an accountant and many people in the report talk about your ability to create new programs and be creative, that's differentiating because most accountants are not.
Right.
So we spend I spend like an hour or an hour and a half with a client actually going through that data because it's very, very useful. Now you asked a question, how do people know it's anonymous? Before you send out this questionnaire or assessment, I have my clients send out a heads up email to the people. And it would say, I'm engaging in an assessment or a professional development process to learn more about my strengths and skills. I sort of give them templated
Okay.
heads up
Yep.
emails, and they send them out to everybody so people are aware that they're going to be solicited, and they know it's anonymous, and they know to look in their junk mail for the
Okay.
survey.
Do you think it helps to say, especially in this economy, I'm in the process of trying to get a job, or I'm transitioning to a new career, this is really important
Depends
feedback?
on who you're asking
Okay.
and what your situation is. So for people who are working and they're soliciting people in their work environment, they may not want them to know they're looking for a job.
Right.
That's why I said I've written several different heads up
Okay.
emails.
Oh,
It depends.
So you could send different emails. Maybe if you could have 2 different emails, right? Depending on.
Well, you can only because you can only use the tool once.
No,
with
but I
your
mean for
target.
your heads up email, you could actually use a different.
I guess you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess you could.
Okay.
I've never really done
I
it
don't
that
want
way,
to complicate
but you could.
this. I'm
But you
just
could.
asking.
You could.
Okay.
So that's how we're getting the external feedback, and that's a big part of the process, and I usually engage in that right away when I start with a client, because it takes a couple days for them to get their hands around this. It's kind of complicated. I have 5 pages of instructions. They read that, then they got to get their email addresses together,
Right.
and we get the survey going. Because it could take 10 days
Yeah, I
to
was gonna
2
ask.
weeks
Okay.
to get the feedback, because we
Right.
have multiple reminders that go out, and then you want to get the report crunched, and then I want to read it. I read the report before I sit down with the client.
Sure.
So while that's happening in the background, then I'm working on the VPs with the clients and their goals. The number one key to this process is having clear goals. If you don't know where you're going, it's impossible to go through this process, because the
Right.
goals tie to your target audience, which ties to how you express.
Right.
And 90% of the people that I work with in this process have no goals, and they have no clue where they're going.
Well,